4 years ago, Season 1 of the Rising of the Shield began. It caused a bit of controversy as it included a woman falsely accusing a man of assault and had child slavery. Two topics which are very relevant today was Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard and slavery for electric cars and sex slavery in general. Hello, I am AP the Weird One, and with Season 3 of Rising of the Shield Hero a month away, what better way to celebrate the coming season by giving the main cast Digimon partners? With the series being a multiverse, it is quite possible for them to have Digimon. Before I begin, there will be massive spoilers, so if you haven't read the light novels, turn away now if you don't want to be spoiled, and no, the manga won't save you. With that, let's begin. First, we're going to start with our hero, Naofumi. And instead of going the normal path with using the Wielder or the shield arms, I went with something a little bit more of his personality. So we start off with his rookie, Sistermon Blanc. I chose her as one. Naofumi has a lot of childlike females in his party, and I wanted to give another little support in terms of shielding and healing, kind of how she was in Digimon story Cyber Sleuth. And the bunny motif is a little bit more prevalent, as Naofumi doesn't have a prominent bunny member in the Therantropes. Continuing that bunny theme, we go with Letskimon, who's very fast and can help transport down allies and even disable the opponent with her ice moves. From there, we have Antilamon. One, this represents his more darker nature, with his being the virus attribute, and I felt this was more important with the profile description Digimon reference book. It mentions her abilities, and I thought, since I conveyed it a little bit better, I didn't think the Deva version had it. As far as the megas, we have two options. First, we have Mastimon, and I chose her because in the light novels, the main villain can travel across multiple worlds, and it would be nice to have a partner that can do that as well. However, I think Junomon is better representative of Naofumi's personality and his waifus, who are very clingy to him and want to make love with him. And of course, because Naofumi can have his own rage moments, she of course has her hysteric mode. Moving on, we have his love interest, Raphtalia. And for her partner, I've chosen Tapirmon. Raphtalia, as a child, she was evicted from her homeland because of political strife. Then of course her parents were killed during the first wave, so she's going to have nightmares, and I thought Tapirmon with his dreamlike abilities could help her. As she travels with Naofumi, she becomes a bit of an illusion magician, so I think her Soulmon would be perfect for that role. And of course, she becomes a magical swordsman, so thus Mistymon would make for a good ultimate. In terms of the Mega, there's a couple of options, but I think keeping with the magical swordsman theme, I chose Medieval Gallantmon. Yes, he doesn't have a sword, but he still has magical, and he was seen in Witchny. You could also use Dynasmon as Raphtalia has a undying loyalty to Naofumi. Moving on to the spear hero, Motoyasu. This one's pretty simple if you read the light novels. Rookie is going to be Biomon because he loves the Filolials because of his love interest, Filo. From Biomon, we go with Daitrimon to kind of represent the ostrich-looking forms of the Filolials. And for the ultimate, we choose Sirenmon. Sirenmon, when Motoyasu was down his luck, Filo would sing to him, and that's what caused him to fall in love with Filolials and even Filo herself. And finally, we have Ancient Irismon. This kind of represents the Filolials, kind of represents Victoria, but also the Filolia that's in the alternative line in Reprise of Shield, Reprise of Spear hero. Moving on, we go to his love interest, Filo. Initially, I was going to go with the Zubamon line, but I felt that was kind of a little too simple. She does have this weapon this blunt weapon, and she kind of wields it around after Volume 10, and that's kind of I was thinking with using the Zuba. But I wanted to be a little bit more creative, so for a rookie, I went with Spadamon, which still represents that, and she can cling onto it. But she does like to carry things and haul things around, I thought Kenkimon would be a good choice. He's kind of big and slow, and it'd be a good Digimon for her to kind of pull around, even though he can roll around himself. For the ultimate, I thought Shootmon would be a good choice. Shootmon has a whole bunch of balls and shooting, and so with Filo, she can combo off of him. Like, if the ball misses, she can redirect the move to somewhere else. And finally, for the Mega, keeping with the gun line theme, I just went with Zedgarurumon to give Filo support while she's in the air. For the next up, we have their Dark Swordsman, Ren, and he's also pretty easy to go with. First off, we have Kotimon. He is a swordsman, so in training swordsman, easy enough. Then we have Yaskamon. Yaskamon has a lot of deal with techniques, and in Volume 6, Ren relies more on these techniques rather than true skill, and so those kind of two match up together. Keeping with the dual swordsmanship, we have Grademon. What's very important about Grademon is Grademon has cursed swords, and Ren has succumbed to this. He succumbs to the cursed series of Greed in Volume 11, so that he has two cursed swords, much like Grademon. And keeping with the Dark Swordsman line and the dual wielding, we have Gayomon or Samurdramon, whatever you prefer. Next up, we have his love interest, Eclair. And I didn't want to stick too much to the swordsmanship. I wanted a little bit more like beast and horse-like. So first we're going to start with the swordsman with Bushy Agumon. But from there, we're going to go with Lydramon, something like kind of a creature she can ride on top, and also kind of represents her lightning quick swordsmanship. Finally, we have Catramon, kind of the same thing, a beast she can ride. And for her Mega, since she most likely becomes the future tacticianer or lead general of Melomark, we have Leopardmon and her Leopard mode, something she can ride with, but it also can transform back into regular Leopardmon. Finally, for the final of the four main heroes, we have Itsuki. And I was going to go with something a little more his Steaky Stealth, but I kind of went with more of the traditional, him being a bow hero. And we start with Kudamon, something that can be around his neck and keep in the background. And normally I would go with the normal Kudamon line, but I wanted to kind of keep more of the riding aspect since the chariot hero works alongside the bow hero. So we go with Unimon, and then we go back to the traditional line of Quinlanmon, and finally Kentarosmon. Next, we have his love interest, Ren. And Ren, when her partner is once you see the partner and I explain things, it does make sense. And to begin with, we start with Penmon. When Naofumi meets Rishia, she will eventually take on this. She kind of wears this penguin outfit in the beginning because she's very shy. Then, as kind of her journey as a warrior, she was initially good at But of course, as she does become a swordsman, and therefore becomes Iseomon or Pangeamon. And finally, for the Mega, sort of where she ends up being kind of a jack of all trades, using both magic and swordsmanship, and also using the technique that escapes my mind. We have Hexablaumon, and she's also the projectile hero, and he does have a little bit of projectile, so it does kind of make sense. Finally, we have the other heroes, the lesser known ones. We have Kizuna. And for Kizuna, she's a big time fisherman. And for that, we're going to give her Swimmon. From Swimmon, we're going to go to Orcamon because she is very lazy. And so maybe she's just kind of dozing off and you need Orcamon to kind of wake her up. Of course, she does like to travel and she doesn't like to be lazy, so she gets a little Waymon when she's a little bit sleepy, or she's just out and about fishing. And finally, we have her Mega Regelicusmon. Kizuna can't attack humans, so you can only attack beasts, and so Regelicusmon can be that Digimon that can attack the heroes, or attack the villains, I mean, when there's none of her allies and she's only against humans. That's where he comes in. And he's also a hunter himself, much like Kizuna. Now, in the light novels, it's implied that Glass is kind of her love interest. Glass has feelings for her. And for her line, we're going to be pretty basic. We're just going to stick with the Renamon line. Then go to Cubimon, Talmon, and Sakuyamon. But I wanted to add that extra flavor of the Anafuda, so I went with, of course, Sakuyamon X. Finally, we have another hero, Shildina, which is going to happen later in light novel. And for her, we're going to go with the EX5 Animal Coliseum line of for Leviamon. So we have Sakamon, I forget the official name. And of course, we have its champion Octomon, followed by, of course, the Dagomon or Dragomon. They're both kind of priestess, and she does wield the Anafuda, so it does kind of make sense. And of course, we need to continue that with Leviamon. But I also wanted to add that extra layer of magic that Shildina has, and so I went with Leviamon X Antibody. Now, Shildina is in love with Naofumi, but she does have a sister, and so these two kind of a pair. And for her sister, I've chosen Gomamon. Keeping with the aquatic theme, they both her and her sister like to go travel in deep waters. From there, we're going to go with Tylomon. She can transform into an orca or the killer whale, so kind of keeping that theme. But she's also kind of a crafty one, so War Siegermon kind of makes sense for the ultimate. And finally, as she is the Trident hero, she has Neptunemon. We got one more to go, and that is the founder of Silverfelt, Mamoru. And Mamoru is a little bit interesting, and I had to make some predictions. We're going to start off with Lucimon, because his love interest kind of represents, it looks like his love interest, so it could came over with him. As for the champion, I wanted to kind of keep that power level strength, so I went with Gulus Gamamon. His love interest, Filolia, does get injured, and so I felt like kind of darkness represents in the heart, that would force Gulus. Now from here, we kind of have a split evolutionary line. For the ultimate, in which Naofumi does not appear, it becomes Chimeramon. Mamoru does have the villagers experimented on, and so naturally Gulus could become Chimeramon. And since we know the world does eventually get destroyed, maybe not necessarily in his timeline, Chimeramon will become Parallelmon in the event to either become a villain for the future heroes, for Naofumi. Of course, when Naofumi does meet Mamoru in the current light novel line, Gulas is going to become Fumamon, because his love interest does survive and doesn't succumb to darkness, but it also kind of, with Melty's presence, it kind of assumes the ninja. And finally, because his girlfriend is very heroic and lovey, it becomes Seriousmon. And speaking of his love interest, Filolia, she's kind of like the kind of anime protagonist, sort of go-getter. So she's going to naturally have the Starsmon line and becomes Starmon. Of course, when she does fall, it becomes very depressed and becomes Darkstarmon. Now, in the case of Naofumi not appearing, Darkstarmon becomes Vittoria's partner and will become Achillesmon to help be alongside the Chariot, as it is kind of has that it would be on a chariot. But when Naofumi is there and she is actually saved, Darkstarmon gets help and becomes Justimon. This is going to be all for part 1. I do have a part 2, so stay tuned for that.